Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Peer TV. My name is Jody Bone, and today we're going to be talking about pairing with reinforcement. So pairing with reinforcement is awesome. Basically, you get to be Oprah for a minute, right? You get a car, and you get an iPad, and you get some candy, and you get some free time, and you get a homework pass. When you are pairing yourself with reinforcement, you're going to be the reason that fun things are happening. And Oprah knows very well that people tend to be cooperative when you say nice things to them and you give them things that they like. She is the queen of that. So if you need a visual to imagine when you think, now what is pairing with reinforcement? Think about Oprah's Christmas show. She pairs herself with lots of reinforcers. People would be sure to come back to that show if she ever could, or if they could. Pairing with reinforcement means that you're making ongoing activities even better. So if the person is enjoying playing a video game, you're sitting down and you're commenting on how well that they jump or how fast that they can go or how long they work to figure that out. Whatever it is that is happening, you're just making it better. Pairing with reinforcement also means that you are the person who's giving them access to the things that they like. And so that means if a person likes M&Ms, you're just going to be like, hey man, I thought you might want one of these, and you're going to pop an M&M on their desk. If the person likes attention, you're going to take 5 minutes out of your day before class starts to just go talk to them about what they did that weekend. Pairing yourself with reinforcement is kind of like being the kid. You remember the kid in your class that always had the best toys and they would bring them to school and you always wanted to be the kid that they would pick to let play with them? Pairing with reinforcement is kind of like that, except now you get to be the kid with the best toys. Pairing yourself with reinforcement means that you become a signal that things are about to get better. Whenever Jody's around, fun things happen. We play games, we watch movies, we talk about my favorite sports, whatever it might be. When you are pairing yourself with reinforcement, you're actually making yourself a signal that things are about to get better. And I know that you all probably know people that as soon as they walk in the door, you're like, oh no. They're here. Something's about to get worse. Unfortunately, for a lot of kids, we become signals that things are about to get worse. I'm going to have to do work. I'm going to have to put away my phone. I'm going to have to stop talking to my friends, whatever it might be. A lot of kids cooperate just because they don't want to get in trouble. Not all kids are worried about getting in trouble. So when you're pairing yourself with reinforcement, you're actually making yourself someone that people want to see. That's really important. So let's take a quick science lesson and refresher here, right? You guys may be familiar with the work of Ivan Pavlov, and he was actually a physiologist who was studying digestion in dogs. And so the dog would be present, he would bring out the meat, and the dog would start to salivate, start the digestive process. Well, he started to notice something funny happening. Eventually, the dogs didn't start salivating whenever the meat was presented. They actually started salivating whenever the researchers walked into the room. And so Pavlov thought to himself, are the researchers becoming signals that the meat is about to be presented? And so he actually started to ring a bell. He would ring a bell at the same time or right before he was presenting the meat. And the next thing you know, the meat doesn't even have to be there. The dog is salivating without the meat anywhere in its presence. Now you might stop and think to yourself, what does this have to do with me, right? I'm not a dog, first of all, and I don't work with dogs, and I'm not going to be handing people pieces of steak. Well, let me show you a little bit about why that's important. So think about it in the context that we do use, right? You've got that kid, he didn't want to be at school, he is very grumpy, he would do anything just to go back home, right? But if you give him an activity that he really likes, playing a video game, being on the computer, whatever it might be, eating a piece of candy, all of a sudden he's a happy kid and he's fine with being there, right? So look at it like this. If you take that same kid and you put yourself in the mix where now you are the one providing the access to the video game, the kid's a happy kid, right? Eventually, you don't even need to add the video game. All you need is your presence because you have become a signal that things are about to get better. So when we're working with our students, it is really important to remember that we want to become signals that things are going to get better, not that things are going to get worse. If people know that we have access with things, they're more likely to cooperate with us. So then that brings us to the question, why do we even care about pairing ourselves with reinforcers, right? What difference does it make? Shouldn't these kids just do it because they're supposed to? Well, a lot of times people think it works like that. And the truth is, the kids aren't doing it because they're supposed to. They're either doing it because they want your approval or because they want to stay out of trouble. It's not just because they're quote unquote supposed to. It is because they are either trying to get to something that they like your praise or approval, or they're trying to avoid something they don't like a call home to their parents saying what a brat they were that day. So when we pair ourselves with reinforcers, we actually make it more likely that our students will cooperate with us. And the first step to getting instructional control, which is a topic for another video, but the first step to gaining instructional control is to pair yourself with reinforcers. And so we always say that you'll know if you've paired yourself with reinforcers if you get more approach than escape behaviors. So if a kid's walking across the room to get away from you whenever they see you, you have not effectively paired yourself with reinforcers. You will know that you have paired yourself with reinforcement if the student approaches you more frequently than they try to get away from you. And just keep in mind, pairing isn't something that you just do once or twice and, oh, I've paired myself with reinforcers. It's actually something you can do all the time. And it's not just for kids with disabilities. Whether you know it or not, if people quote unquote like you, chances are you have effectively paired yourself with their reinforcement, with their reinforcers. And so this is something that you can use in every aspect of your life with every person that you meet. There's the saying that you catch more flies with honey, right? This kind of goes back to that because it's true. We like people who are nice and who give us things. And so this is why we want to pair ourselves with reinforcers. So we have kids that want to cooperate with us, they want to be around us, and they're not trying to escape or avoid the environments that we're in or the activities that we're asking them to do. So how do you do it, right? How do you pair yourself with reinforcers? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to identify things that the person likes, okay? And we're going to talk in just a moment about how you can do that. You also want to make sure that you're the person who provides the access to it. So in our prior example with the angry kid in the PlayStation, if the kid can just go turn on the PlayStation and doesn't need you for anything, you're not pairing yourself with that as a reinforcer. However, if the kid has to come to you to get the controller to play the PlayStation, now you have paired yourself with that activity that's potentially reinforcing for that child. So if the kid can get the M&Ms on their own, you're not pairing yourself with them. They have to come through you to get it. So sometimes you'll hear people refer to this as sanitizing the environment. And when you hear this, they're not talking about Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer. They're talking about putting things away so that the person has to approach you and ask you for help with getting that item. You also want to make sure you're not requiring them to do any specific thing, right? So all they have to do is be in your presence. So yes, you might want to set it up where they need to come to you to get the keys to the cabinet to get to the things that they like, but you don't want it to always have to be something they have to ask for. Sometimes you just want to give it. They're sitting over at their desk, they're doing whatever, and you just walk by and you say, hey, I thought you might like this, and you give them a copy of their favorite comic book. You didn't ask them to do anything. You're not asking them to do anything because you gave it to them. You're just giving it to them freely. The important part about that is that you also want to make sure that you're only giving access when their behavior is appropriate. We're not going to provide access to things that they like if they're doing things that we don't want, right? So we're going to wait until they're doing things that we like, even if it's not necessarily perfect, but it's just okay, before we provide that access to them. And number 5, you also want to limit access to competing reinforcers. So what this means is if I really like attention, I might be able to pair myself with reinforcement with a student who loves attention by having conversations about their favorite topics. However, if there's a large group of peers that are around and they can more easily go to that peer group to have that conversation or get a lot of attention for things that we don't want, then I've got competing reinforcers on my hands. So that means that we need to eliminate those. So maybe I need to give that person some attention when they're outside of their peer group. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in number 2. If you don't have access or control of the reinforcers, this is something important to remember. If you don't control the reinforcer, you can't change behavior. So we've got to make sure that we've got access to the things that they like, and that we're also the ones that provide the best source of that. So if they can get 2 M&Ms from their friend versus 20 M&Ms from me, I've still paired myself with reinforcement because the kid likes M&Ms, right? More M&Ms is always better. I guess I don't like M&Ms, but whatever. Story for another day. Number 6, you want to leave the interaction while the person is still motivated. Let me tell you something. If you're doing something with a kid and they are so sick of you, they just want you to go away, you're not pairing yourself with reinforcement. You want to leave while the person still wants to be around you. I still want to be around you because I know you've got candy. I still want to be around you because we were just talking about my favorite video game and I wasn't really finished yet. I still want to be around you because I've got extra break time and I'm looking for someone to play with. So it's important to leave the interaction while the person is still motivated. And you know, the biggest piece of all of this is have fun. Pairing with reinforcement will be one of the most fun, laid back, child-led things that you can do whenever you're trying to figure out the best way to work with a student. And let me tell you, if you're not having a good time, they're not having a good time either, and you are not effectively pairing yourself with reinforcement. So how can you identify reinforcers? Well, watch what the kids are doing. See what they play with. See who they talk to. Listen to what they talk about. Ask them questions about things that they like. There are preference assessments that you can give to the kids that are available in the behavior library. And if you need information on accessing the behavior library, please just shoot me an email and that information will be available at the end of this presentation. And very importantly, always remember that a reinforcer is anything that increases or maintains behavior. So just because somebody likes something doesn't necessarily make it a reinforcer, but typically if they like it, it's going to be effective for pairing with reinforcement. But reinforcement causes behavior to maintain or increase. So you can use any type of activity. I used to have a kid that loved to do math flashcards, so that's what we used for pairing. I'd bring flashcards and we would do those, and that was our pairing activity. You just never know what really might motivate kid. So I just want to thank you for being here and learning with us today. If you have an idea for a video or any questions about this or any of the other topics that we've covered, please send me an email at jody.bone@rpsar.net and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great day.